The hatch opened with a mechanical hiss, unleashing a blast of frigid air that crystallized breath and stung exposed skin. Glacier 9 stretched before them, a vast, unforgiving expanse of ice canyons and swirling vapor clouds. The sky above hung heavy with the promise of the approaching magnetic storm, its pale blue tinged with ominous gray-green streaks that seemed to pulse with otherworldly energy. Commander Vorik's scales shimmered with a metallic glint as he addressed the assembled cadets. His reptilian features remained impassive, but his voice carried the edge of someone who had seen countless trainees fail on this frozen hell. "Welcome to your final survival assessment, cadets," he announced, tail swishing methodically against the metal floor of the transport ship. Glacier 9 is classified as a Class 15 ice world. Surface temperatures hover at -120 degrees Celsius. Winds regularly exceed 200 kilometers per hour. The magnetic storm will arrive in approximately 6 hours, and extraction is scheduled for 24 hours from now. The commander's vertical pupils narrowed as they swept across the group. This is not a theoretical exercise. Your survival depends entirely on your preparation, your equipment, and your judgment. The Galactic Survival Corps does not tolerate failure, as failure here means death. Erin Mallory stood at the back of the group, measuring her breaths carefully, as she had been taught by her grandfather. 22 years old, she was the only human in this year's class at the Academy, while her fellow cadets hailed from worlds across the galaxy, some with atmospheric compositions that would be instantly fatal to humans. She carried the quiet pride of Earth's frontier heritage in her bones. "Your exosuits are calibrated for Glacier 9's conditions," Vorik continued. "Each of you has been assigned a quadrant. You will establish shelter, maintain life support, and signal your position according to protocol. Those who survive will graduate. Those who do not." The commander let the statement hang unfinished in the frigid air. Erin felt the weight of stares as her classmates noticed her distinct lack of technological preparation. While they wore gleaming exosuits with integrated heating systems, atmospheric regulators, and emergency beacons, she carried only a traditional canvas parka, insulated with natural fibers, and a pack of seemingly primitive tools. Zeal, a crystalline being whose transparent skin revealed complex geometric structures beneath, emitted a sound like breaking glass, the equivalent of a derisive laugh in their species. "The human thinks she's going to survive with sticks and animal skins," Zeal commented, loud enough for everyone to hear. Commander Vorik turned his attention to Erin. "Cadet Mallory, the Academy provided you with a standard-issue survival suit. Explain your current attire." Erin met his gaze steadily. "Sir, I requested permission to test using Earth's traditional cold-weather survival techniques. Permission was granted by the Academy Board." Vorik's expression didn't change, but a ripple of scales along his neck betrayed his disapproval. "Very well. Your funeral, human." The commander checked his chronometer. "The storm has accelerated. You have 5 hours until magnetic interference begins. Deploy now." The alien cadets activated their exosuits with practiced efficiency. Shield generators hummed to life, creating protective bubbles around each of them. Erin tightened the hood of her parka, secured her pack, and faced the howling wind with nothing but her training and determination. As she stepped onto the ice, the transport's hatch sealed behind her with finality. The wind screamed like a living thing, searching for any weakness in her layers. Erin pulled a pair of bone-handled ice picks from her belt and began her descent into the canyon below, where the walls would provide at least some shelter from the punishing gusts. Through her polarized goggles, she caught glimpses of her classmates deploying hover technology to navigate the treacherous terrain effortlessly. Kargu, a massive Fraunar warrior whose species evolved on a high-gravity world, activated his gravitational compensators and bounded across ice chasms with ease. The insectoid Lurax unfurled membranous wings from their exosuit, riding the thermal currents with precise calculations. Erin dug her picks into the ice and descended methodically. Each placement was deliberate, tested before bearing her weight. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her mind. The cold doesn't care about your feelings, your ambitions, or your fears. It only respects preparation and respect. An hour into her descent, the first signs of trouble rippled across the canyon. A massive electromagnetic pulse surged through the atmosphere, a precursor to the main storm. Erin watched as her classmates' technology flickered momentarily, causing panic among some of the less experienced cadets. She continued her methodical progress, reaching the canyon floor just as the second, stronger pulse hit. This time, the alien technology didn't merely flicker, it failed catastrophically. Hover systems crashed, sending cadets plummeting to the ice below. Thermal regulators sputtered and died, leaving their wearers suddenly exposed to the killing cold. Emergency beacons emitted discordant tones before falling silent. The storm had arrived hours ahead of schedule, and it had rendered all advanced technology useless. Erin heard the screams and watched as Zeal's crystalline form tumbled from the sky, their anti-gravity system completely offline. With remarkable reflexes, she positioned herself beneath the falling cadet and braced for impact. The collision sent them both sprawling across the ice, but Erin's insulated clothing absorbed much of the force. "My systems, they're completely dead." Zeal's voice vibrated with fear, their geometric inner structures pulsing with distress patterns. "The magnetic storm is interfering with all electronics," Erin explained, helping the crystalline being to their feet. "It came early, but without my thermal regulation, I'll shatter in minutes." Panic edged into Zeal's harmonics. Erin made a quick assessment. "We need shelter now. Can you still move?" Yes, but—" "Then follow me," Erin commanded, already scanning the canyon walls for a suitable location. She spotted what she needed, a slight overhang where snow had accumulated in a natural drift. "There! Hurry!" More cadets were descending now, some by choice, and others by gravity's insistence. Voices called out in various languages, translators failing alongside other systems. Panic spread like a contagion as the reality of their situation became clear. Erin reached the snowdrift and immediately began to dig, using a broad-bladed tool from her pack. Zeal watched in confusion. "What are you doing? We need to find a cave or—" "I'm making a cave," Erin replied without pausing her work. "It's called an igloo. Humans have been building them for thousands of years." "A structure made of frozen water? That's absurd." Erin didn't waste energy arguing. Instead, she worked methodically, carving blocks from the compacted snow and arranging them in a spiral pattern. Her movements were practiced, efficient, the result of countless drills during Earth's harsh winters. More cadets gathered, drawn by the sight of purposeful activity amid the chaos. Kargu, the Fraunar warrior, approached with two smaller cadets huddled against his massive frame. Despite his species' natural resistance to cold, even he was beginning to show signs of distress. "Human," he rumbled. "What are you building?" "Shelter," Erin answered simply. "Help me cut blocks. Like this." She demonstrated the technique, then handed him her spare tool. To her surprise, the warrior followed her instructions without argument. His strength allowed him to cut and place blocks at twice her speed. Within an hour, a dome was taking shape, large enough to accommodate several cadets. Erin instructed the others to pack snow into the cracks between blocks, creating a windproof seal. As the structure neared completion, she carved a small entrance tunnel, angled to prevent wind from blowing directly inside. "Now we need a heat source," she announced, turning to the growing crowd of distressed cadets. "Search for anything combustible, plant matter, roots, anything organic." "There's nothing alive here," protested a blue-skinned aquatic cadet, their gills flapping uselessly in the dry air. Erin reached into her pack and removed a small collection of thin, fibrous strips. "Emergency tinder," she explained. "But it won't last long. We need fuel. While the others huddled near the entrance, Aaron crawled into the center of the igloo and began arranging the tinder. From another pouch, she produced a curved piece of clear ice, carefully shaped into a lens. "What is that primitive thing?" Zeal asked, having followed her inside. "It's called a fire lens," Aaron explained. "Watch." She positioned herself to catch the dim sunlight, filtering through the storm clouds. Focusing it, through the ice lens onto the tinder. The concentrated beam created a small, intense point of heat. With patient precision, she held the focus until a wisp of smoke appeared. Then gentle breath coaxed it into a fragile flame. The cadets watched in amazement as the fire took hold, casting warm light throughout the snow shelter. The temperature inside began to rise, almost immediately. Not to comfort, but at least above the threshold of immediate danger. "Impossible!" whispered an insectoid observer, their compound eyes reflecting the dancing flames. Aaron ignored the comment, focusing instead on maintaining the precious fire. "We need to take turns tending this. If it goes out, we'll have to start over, and I don't know if we'll have enough sunlight left." One by one, the cadets squeezed into the igloo, their bodies adding to the trapped heat. Aaron organized them by species, placing those most vulnerable to cold nearest the fire, while those with natural resistance formed an outer ring. The shelter, designed for perhaps 6 humans, now contained 15 beings of various sizes and physiologies. "The walls will melt slightly from our body heat," Aaron explained, "but then refreeze stronger. Don't touch them directly. Your body heat will waste energy, and you might stick to the ice." As darkness fell outside, the magnetic storm reached its full fury. Wind howled across the canyon, carrying particles of ice that scoured exposed surfaces. Inside the igloo, the cadets listened to nature's rage with new respect. Aaron continued to work, teaching the others how to maintain the fire, how to melt ice for drinking water without wasting fuel, how to arrange themselves to conserve body heat. Her quiet confidence contrasted sharply with the earlier panic, and gradually, the cadets began to follow her lead without question. Zeal, who had mocked her primitive preparation, now watched her every move with attentive fascination. "How did you know to build this?" they finally asked. Aaron paused her work. "My grandfather taught me. He was a wilderness guide in Earth's Arctic regions. He believed that technology should enhance survival skills, not replace them." "Your academy instructors permitted this approach?" "Not at first," Aaron admitted. "I had to demonstrate my methods during training exercises. Eventually, they recognized that diversity of approach creates resilience. At least, that was the official reason." "And the unofficial one?" Kargu rumbled from his position near the entrance. Aaron smiled slightly. "I think they expected me to fail spectacularly and prove the superiority of galactic technology." A sound like tinkling crystal indicated Zeal's amusement. "That plan seems to have backfired." As the night progressed, Aaron organized the cadets into shifts, some sleeping, while others maintained the fire and entrance. Those with better night vision took watch during the darkest hours. Those with higher body temperatures shared their natural warmth with those who were struggling. Near midnight, by Aaron's reckoning, a reptilian cadet named Vex returned from a scouting mission with startling news. "I found Commander Vorik," he reported, scales rattling with cold despite his species' natural adaptations. "His emergency shelter failed when the magnetic pulse hit. He's attempting to create a beacon using manual override protocols. But what?" Aaron prompted. "He's too exposed. His survival suit is offline. And reptilians like us, we can't maintain consciousness in these temperatures for long without assistance." Aaron didn't hesitate. "Where?" 2 kilometers north, near a vertical ice formation. "But you can't possibly." She was already gathering supplies. "Kargu, you're in charge until I return. Maintain the fire. Keep the entrance clear of snow. And don't let anyone leave alone." The Frownar warrior nodded solemnly. "You're going after the commander? The The one who dismissed your methods. He's still our instructor, Aaron replied simply. And no one gets left behind. She fashioned a crude torch, using fuel-soaked fibers wrapped around a length of bone. Then pulled her hood tight and crawled through the entrance tunnel. The full force of Glacier 9's nighttime conditions hit her like a physical blow. Wind that stole breath. Cold that burned exposed skin. Darkness so complete it seemed solid. Aaron ignited her torch, using embers from the main fire, creating a small circle of visibility in the overwhelming blackness. With one hand shielding the flame and the other gripping her ice pick, she began the arduous journey across the canyon floor. Each step required careful testing of the ice beneath. Hidden crevasses waited to swallow the unwary, and the wind threatened to extinguish her precious light source at any moment. Aaron advanced steadily, counting her paces and using the towering ice formations as landmarks. After what felt like hours, but was likely less than 40 minutes, she spotted an unnatural glow against the base of a massive ice spire. As she drew closer, she made out Commander Vorik's form hunched over a small device. A weak, pulsing light emanated from it, a manual beacon that would be virtually invisible through the storm interference. "Commander!" she called, voice barely audible above the wind. Vorik's head snapped up, reptilian eyes reflecting the torchlight. Recognition flickered across his features, followed by disbelief. "Mallory, how are you?" His voice faltered, the cold slowing his speech and thought processes. Aaron didn't waste time on explanations. "Sir, you need shelter immediately. I've established a secure location 2 kilometers south with the other cadets." The commander tried to rise but stumbled, his normally precise movements clumsy with hypothermia. "My duty, to maintain position, for extraction." "With respect, sir, extraction won't happen until the storm passes, and you won't survive that long without proper shelter." When Vorik attempted to argue further, Aaron made a quick assessment. The commander's scales had taken on a dull, matte appearance, a dangerous sign for his species. His metabolic processes were shutting down to preserve core function. Making a decision, she extinguished her beacon. "I apologize in advance, sir." With a swift movement that surprised even the experienced commander, Aaron hoisted him across her shoulders in a rescue carry. Though Vorik outweighed her considerably, adrenaline and proper technique allowed her to bear the burden. "This is insubordination," Vorik managed weakly. "You can put me on report after we survive," Aaron replied, already turning back toward the igloo. "For now, I need you to stay conscious. Tell me about your homeworld." The journey back was twice as difficult. Aaron's muscles screamed in protest, and the torch, now held awkwardly in her one free hand, guttered dangerously in the wind. She kept Vorik talking, about his training, his first mission, anything to keep his mind active and prevent him from slipping into unconsciousness. By the time the igloo came into view, marked by the faint glow of firelight through the ice walls, Aaron's legs were numb with exhaustion. She called out as she approached, and Kargu emerged immediately, taking the commander's weight from her shoulders. "You actually found him," the warrior said, genuine respect in his deep voice. "Get him inside. Close to the fire but not too close," Aaron instructed, pausing to catch her breath. "He needs gradual warming." Inside, the cadets had expanded the igloo during her absence, following the pattern she had established. The dome now encompassed nearly twice the original space, with carefully placed ventilation holes preventing carbon dioxide buildup. Commander Vorik was positioned near the central fire pit, which now burned with a variety of fuels the cadets had discovered or created. Aaron noticed braided cords of plant fibers, roots that must have been excavated from deep beneath the ice, and even a type of waxy substance that one of the insectoid cadets had apparently secreted as an emergency measure. "You've been busy," she observed, collapsing onto the packed snow floor. Zeal approached, offering a container of melted water. "We applied your methodologies to our own biological capabilities," they explained. The aquatic cadets can sense water beneath ice. The burrowers located plant matter. Even I contributed. Aaron accepted the water gratefully. How? The crystalline being gestured to several perfectly shaped ice blocks that reinforced the dome structure. I can restructure ice at a molecular level. Not quickly, but precisely. Commander Vorik, now beginning to regain his faculties, watched this exchange with evident surprise. The hierarchical divisions that normally separated the cadets had dissolved in the face of their shared crisis. Species that rarely interacted at the academy were now working together seamlessly, each contributing their unique abilities to the group's survival. As the night progressed, Aaron organized the expanded space into functional areas, sleeping sections, a food preparation space where ice could be melted and nutrients extracted from the plant matter, a medical area where those suffering from exposure could recover, and a central gathering space around the fire. Throughout, she moved between groups, teaching fundamental survival techniques adapted to each species' biology. She showed the reptilians how to conserve body heat through specific postures. She helped the crystalline beings find positions where thermal expansion and contraction wouldn't stress their structures. She worked with the insectoids to develop more efficient fuel from their natural secretions. Commander Vorik observed all of this with growing comprehension. When Aaron finally took a moment to rest, he approached her. "Cadet Mallory," he began formally, then seemed to reconsider. "Aaron, I owe you an apology and my gratitude." She shook her head. "Neither is necessary, sir." "But they are." His scales had regained some of their luster, though he still moved with deliberate care. "I dismissed your methods as primitive and inferior. I was wrong." Aaron considered this acknowledgement. "With respect, sir, they aren't inferior or superior, just different. Technology is valuable until it fails. Traditional skills are limited, but reliable. The ideal is to master both." Vorik nodded slowly. "A perspective the Academy has perhaps neglected." He glanced around at the bustling activity inside the shelter. "You've accomplished something remarkable here. Not just survival, but cohesion." "Survival is rarely an individual achievement," Aaron replied, repeating another of her grandfather's teachings. "Especially in extreme environments." As dawn approached, the magnetic storm began to subside. Through the ventilation holes, they could see the sky transitioning from pitch black to deep indigo. Aaron organized a team to clear the entrance tunnel, which had partially collapsed under the night's snowfall. Karg, who had taken on a leadership role among the non-human cadets, reported that all 23 survivors, now including Commander Vorik, were in stable condition. Some suffered from minor frostbite or exposure symptoms, but there were no life-threatening injuries. "The extraction shuttle will attempt landing once the magnetic interference drops below level 3, Vorik informed them, checking his now functioning communicator. "Approximately 2 hours." Aaron nodded. "Already planning." "We should establish a signal they can visual from orbit, something large enough to stand out against the ice." Zeal stepped forward. "I can help with that. My crystalline structure can reflect light at specific frequencies." "And I can elevate you for better visibility," offered Kargu. Working together, they created an improvised signal beacon, Zeal, positioned on a platform of ice blocks, refracted the morning sunlight in a distinct pattern that would be immediately recognizable as artificial. Karg and several other strong cadets took turns holding the crystalline being aloft, maximizing the signal's range. Inside the igloo, Aaron conducted a final check of all cadets. The aquatic beings, most vulnerable to the dry conditions, had been kept moist with careful application of melted ice. The reptilians, including Commander Vorik, had maintained adequate body temperature through rotating positions near the fire. Even the insectoids, whose exoskeletons had initially frozen in the extreme cold, had recovered their mobility. When the distant hum of the extraction shuttle finally reached them, a collective sigh of relief passed through the group. The massive vessel descended through the clearing storm, its landing lights cutting through the lingering haze. Academy instructors, clad in emergency response gear, emerged from the shuttle with scanning equipment and medical kits. Their expressions registered shock as they counted the survivors, a full class complement, despite the catastrophic technology failure. The senior instructor, a tall humanoid with metallic skin, approached Commander Vorik. "Report, Commander. How did you achieve this survival rate in these conditions?" Vorik straightened to attention, his posture now fully recovered. "Credit belongs to Cadet Mallory, sir. Her traditional Earth survival techniques proved most effective when our technology failed." The senior instructor turned to Aaron, who stood quietly at the entrance to the igloo. "Impressive work, Cadet. The Academy will be very interested in your methods." As the cadets boarded the extraction shuttle, many paused to thank Aaron personally. Zeal, once her most vocal critic, placed a crystalline hand on her shoulder, a gesture of profound respect in their culture. "I would not have survived without your knowledge," they acknowledged. "Perhaps there is wisdom in your primitive ways that we have forgotten in our rush toward technological advancement." Kargu, the Fraunar warrior, was more direct. "You have the heart of a true warrior, human. It is not the weapons one carries but the spirit with which one faces adversity that determines worth." Commander Vorik was the last to board, pausing beside Aaron as she took a final look at the shelter that had saved 23 lives. "The Academy teaches survival through domination of environments," he observed. "Your approach demonstrates survival through understanding and adaptation. There is much we could learn from this perspective." Aaron nodded, appreciating the acknowledgement, but already thinking about improvements to her design. The igloo could have been more efficient. The ventilation wasn't optimal for multiple species, and the fire pit needed better heat distribution. Vorik made a sound that might have been laughter. "Always the perfectionist. Come, Cadet. The shuttle awaits." As they lifted off from Glacier 9's surface, Aaron watched through a viewport as the igloo diminished to a tiny dot, and then vanished altogether in the vast white expanse. Yet its impact would endure far beyond its physical presence. In the shuttle's cargo bay, Zeal was already creating a crystalline model of the shelter, precisely recording its dimensions and structure. Several instructors gathered around, asking questions about the construction techniques. Cadets from a dozen worlds compared notes on the survival methods they had learned from the human in their midst. When they reached the Academy orbital station, news of the cadets' survival against overwhelming odds had preceded them. A crowd gathered in the docking bay, instructors, senior officers, and cadets from other classes, all eager to hear first-hand accounts of the experience. The Academy director, a being of pure energy contained within a humanoid form, greeted them personally. "Commander Vorik has transmitted his preliminary report. To say I'm impressed would be an understatement." Aaron stood at attention, uncomfortable with the attention but maintaining protocol. "Cadet Mallory," the director continued, "your actions exemplify the highest traditions of the Galactic Survival Corps. You not only survived, but ensured the survival of your entire class under conditions that should have been fatal. The Academy Board has unanimously voted to incorporate your traditional survival methodologies into our standard curriculum." A murmur of approval rippled through the assembled crowd. Aaron felt a complex mix of emotions: pride in her heritage, validation of her grandfather's teachings, and a profound sense that perhaps humans had more to offer the galactic community than just their adaptability. 3 weeks later, Aaron knelt in the snow of her grandfather's property in northern Canada. The familiar landscape of spruce forest and frozen lakes stretched before her, so different from the alien terrain of Glacier 9, yet governed by the same fundamental principles. She had been granted a short leave before her formal graduation and commission as an officer in the Corps. The Academy had already requested that she develop a comprehensive training program based on Earth's traditional survival techniques, adapted for various species' physiologies. As she packed snow into a small practice igloo, a meditative exercise she had performed countless times, Erin reflected on the lessons of Glacier 9. Technology had its place, but the fundamental connection between intelligent beings and their environments could never be fully replaced by machinery or artificial systems. Her communicator chimed, indicating an incoming message from the Academy. Opening it, she found schematics for a new type of emergency shelter, one that incorporated both advanced materials and the principles of her igloo design. The accompanying note from Commander Vorik was brief but meaningful. The future of survival lies not in choosing between tradition and technology, but in their thoughtful integration. Your contribution to this understanding will save countless lives across the galaxy. With respect and gratitude. Commander Vorik. Erin smiled, tucking the device away and returning to her work. The snow beneath her hands was cold but malleable, responding to her touch with the familiarity of an old friend. Here, in this element she had mastered through years of practice and generational knowledge, she felt the profound truth that had saved her and her classmates on that distant world. Survival wasn't about conquering nature, but about becoming part of it. The igloo took shape under her experienced hands, each block placed with precision, born of countless repetitions. By the time the winter sun began to set, casting long blue shadows across the snow, the shelter stood complete, a monument to human ingenuity and a bridge between worlds that had once seemed impossibly distant. Erin crawled inside, struck by the familiar quality of light filtering through the ice walls. She lit a small fire in the center, watching as the flames cast dancing shadows across the curved interior. The same physics that had protected them on Glacier 9 worked here, the same principles that her ancestors had discovered through observation and necessity. Tomorrow, she would return to the stars, carrying this ancient knowledge to beings whose worlds she could barely imagine. But tonight, she would sleep as her forebears had for thousands of years, in harmony with the cold, respecting its power while mastering its challenges. As she drifted into sleep, Erin felt a profound connection not just to Earth and its traditions, but to the universe beyond, a universe where the wisdom of primitive techniques and the wonder of advanced technology might finally find their perfect balance.